Hi, I'm Andy Nizovich. I'm the founder of a company called One Degree Training and Coaching. I've been a trainer, speaker for more years than I'd like to admit to. I have met Grace through a couple of different events. She's one of my clients. I've helped her set up her business. I have been trained by professional speaker trainers in the past. One guy particularly, he's an 8-figure speaker. He's helped people generate 8 figures in a business. I've generated a good £250,000 through speaking and things like that. But what I found really fascinating by today is actually the different way that you can go about creating your speech that isn't so systematic and doesn't require you to kind of hit certain points at certain times. It allows a bit of freedom just to allow your own personality, your own style to come into it. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to going back and revisiting a few of the keynotes that I've got and kind of just changing it so it flows a little bit more like I would want it to, rather than some other person has told me that I should. The big takeaway for me is kind of the 3 points that she talks about. It's kind of the exploration, i.e. what are we going to be talking about? Why is this important? The explanation of why this is important, why you should listen to this, and then the persuasion, how to get people to become really invested in this idea to be able to take it forward. I love that flow because it's stages, but it allows creative freedom within there to be able to flow as I see necessary.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Mather. I'm a subconscious transformation expert. I spend a lot of time training others. I know Grace from her previous roles. I've seen her speak before and knew that this would just be an amazing workshop. I aspire to do more speaking myself, so it was perfect timing. Today I found it really helpful to learn about the structure of a speech. I realised that although I've been speaking, I haven't really planned very well or prepared in advance, so I've been winging it. So it was good to hear from Grace how to plan and prepare, how to execute a well-structured speech. If I was to change something else about my speaking, it would be to just feel more comfortable being myself, using the normal inflections, the normal accent that I've got, not trying to be anybody else. The room today was filled with very different people, very different speaking styles, and they were all great. So yeah, it's not about being perfect or about sounding or looking like somebody else. It's about being yourself.
Hello, my name is Steve Lloyd. I am the founder and managing director of Exhibition Mastery Limited. So today's sessions has been brilliant. It's been a really good in-depth taster. There's obviously so much more, and Grace has been so knowledgeable, so we can go into much more depth. She's actually covered a wide range of things, and so I'm leaving today with like frameworks, tools, tips, ways that I can improve my own speaking, and it's been brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Biggest thing for me today, and actually like my newest perspective from it, is actually in terms of the preparation and planning. The Speechcraft planning framework is brilliant and kind of gives you something that you can then start with and then build on, but it gives you an adaptability to then adapt it with the audience and with the changes that you need. It became quite obvious today that my lack of planning actually causes more of the nerves. So by being more planned and being more prepared, I'm going to be a better speaker from just this session, and I'm looking forward to doing more. This course is brilliant, and I'd recommend it to a lot of my clients. I work in the exhibitions industry, and a lot of them are doing things like presentations at exhibitions, either on their stand or as part of the seminar program. And some of them just don't have the skills that has been taught today. So I would definitely recommend it, and I will be recommending it to my clients that are doing any kind of seminar speaking. I mean, even down to people who are doing networking and having to just stand up and kind of introduce themselves. Today's given me a really fresh perspective on how to do it far more effectively. And so, yeah, I will be recommending this to everyone I can.
My name's Ratna Majoria, and I came here to Stageology because I know Grace from quite a few years ago when we used to do Toastmasters together, and I'm really excited to be here while she's launching Stageology. The key takeaways I had was me learning that I'm actually hiding my presence. So the Speechcraft actually identified that whole process, identified how I can get even more clarity to the depth of what I want to speak to. What I actually learned was how much I actually miss being on the stage, to have that presence on the stage. And I learned a few more techniques of how I can use the stage a little bit more better than I am now, or from who I am now, to make sure I don't dim my light. There's an order to it. Grace comes with a lot of experience, even though she's really young, but she cares. And that's the most important thing. And she's trying to break how we actually become exciting speakers, which I think is so, so important. I'd definitely recommend it to my network and people who I coach who could do with getting their speaking confidence.
My name is Jay Virgo and I was invited to take part in this workshop by Grace. It was fun, it was playful, it was interactive, had a really nice balance of stopping and listening and going through slide decks, as well as lots of interactive working. So loads of conversations with people in the space, loads of activities that we could take part in a private way. I didn't feel imposed that I had to share everything. It was just more about opportunity rather than feeling kind of pressured to take part. And everything kind of went at our own pace, which was really, really nice. So it felt quite natural. I think my biggest key takeaway is everyone is so unique. Everyone is so different. Everyone has their style, everyone has their flavor. And like one of the things I mentioned in the session was, you know, comparison is the thief of joy, which I felt very kind of empowered about because it's something I believe really strongly. And I feel like this workshop has just amplified that belief in that we are all ever so unique, especially as speakers. I think my biggest new perspective is I don't have to be just one thing. Like my speaking style can vary depending on the audience. It can vary depending on the circumstance and what I'm talking about. You don't have to be a kind of one-trick pony. You can have variety. There's nothing wrong with being a varied public speaker at all. What I would change, I would allow myself to have a bit more fun. Like I'm quite a playful person naturally, but I think this has given me the kind of nudge to be like, actually, you can play a bit more with your public speaking. You can see what works, what doesn't work. Not everything's gonna be perfect, but like if you don't know, it's fine. Like it's absolutely fine not to know everything, and it's okay to try new things. Some will work, some won't work, and it's about, as a speaker, going on a form of journey.
Hi, I'm Dawn Griffith of Dawn Griffith Therapy. Grace invited me along to this event, and I have watched her grow as a speaker and as a businesswoman, and it's been an amazing day. Grace took us on a journey from the beginning, introducing us to riffing actually, or being on the spot and just saying something, all the way to the end, looking at our vocal variety, our hand gestures, our body movements, and how to craft a speech. For me, the biggest takeaway was really thinking of a different way of how to layer and craft a speech to give a takeaway to people that I would be speaking to. The only thing I would change is being more on purpose with how I craft my speech and write a speech out. Also, along the way of actually using different apps to interact a much younger audience, more the Gen Z, because being older, we're not used to working with all the different apps and different ways of engaging perhaps neurodiverse people and keeping people's attention.
I'm Paul Green. My main business is Business Unfinished, and I also have a speaker and a speakers event called the Speakers Den and Ignite, which is a disruptive business event. Particularly for anybody new to speaking, wanting to speak for the first time in early stage, this kind of workshop and Grace's delivery will be really useful for you. It will help you focus on what you actually need to cover. And even the accomplished speakers that were in the room, I think pretty much everybody got some kind of focus from today's event, but it will be particularly relevant for anybody new in the speaking journey. I definitely learned something new, and for me, one of my takeaways was having a more structured way to definitely plan in at certain times in the talks that I give to use voice, use facial, and use movement of both hands and on the stage to emphasise at certain points. That was probably my biggest takeaway from today. And I would definitely change something, which is exactly that, to plan and structure the movement into my talks as well as the words, because it is really key to emphasise points.